It's on this whole tragedy a year ago. In that year since Sandy, 120 homeowners in Breezy Point, Queens, New York, well, they're still struggling. They're collectively suing two power companies, saying that they didn't properly handle the electricity flow during the storm, and that caused fires that were later obliterated in the neighborhood. To Breezy Point homeowner Kieran Burke, who's back with us, and his lawyer, Keith Sullivan. Now, Kieran, to you first. It's been a year now. Your argument, since the last time we talked to you, as of now, is that the power company compounded the problem by not shutting all power off in your home, right?
Correct. The entire neighborhood, in fact, not just my own.
And what would that have done?
If they had de-energized the grid and they had put the public safety at the forefront of their game plan, it would have precluded that fire from its incipient stage. It never would have started. The fire was electric in nature. It was an adverse electrical occurrence due to contact with seawater, and it was a historically forecasted surge coming. So once that fire happened, it breached the premises that it started in, and essentially it was fed by hurricane-force winds, unchecked. The fire department was unable to access the area due to the storm surge. They don't, the fire trucks can't go through 5 feet of water. So the fire spread unchecked with the direction of the wind, and it subsequently burned down 135 homes and became the largest residential fire.
Was this the sole burn, or was it just the fact that the homes were going to be demolished anyway?
No, because like I had said earlier when I met with you, before I left my home at approximately 7 o'clock, there was no water in it. And when I returned during the course of the fire, as the fire progressed, I had gotten back into my home and the water had already subsided. It had gotten out of the house. I didn't have a basement. So the answer is yes, I would have a home if that fire didn't start, and it's evidenced by the perimeter of the fire zone where you can see.
Gotcha.
You can see the other homes that were impacted by the flood that were fixed.
All right, so the homes that survived this were those where the power was cut completely then, right, Keith?
They've survived, and they have maybe 6 inches, maybe a foot of water damage. These fires were an absolutely avoidable tragedy, nothing less than that. That's what it is.
What do you make of the argument? It's crisis by the minute moment, and that it'd be one thing to say after the fact for cooler heads to prevail, but there was no deliberate intent or even clumsy attempt here. Everyone was trying to essentially deal with a calamity.
I'll go one step further. There was no attempt, zero attempt by the utilities, the power company, the gas company to take any precautionary measures to prevent this.
So you argue that, and you had said this before yourself, that they knew this storm was coming. They had ample time to prepare for what was well telegraphed, and they didn't, right?
I mean, I shut my own power off because I happen to work in an industry, in the emergency service industry, so I knew. In my own one home, I shut my breaker box, but that's still...
But that's not enough, right?
That's not enough at all, because the power is still going to the box.
All right.
So they needed to shut power to the whole area. And the rule of thumb in a storm is that power companies have to cut off all power.
Shut down the system, which is known as de-energizing the industry.
But if you don't think the storm's going to be as severe as it is, not all power companies do that.
Then what they're doing is they're gambling with people's lives and property, and they came up with...
Well, they argue they're gambling more if they shut willy-nilly power off in a large swath of a community, right?
For once, the weathermen got it right, spot on, 4 days in advance. The power company should have taken preemptive strikes and shut down the system.
Where does this stand now then, guys? I mean, because you were the first to raise this. Others have followed suit.
Well,
quite
absolutely.
Literally. So where does it stand?
The lawsuit is pending. LIPA made a motion to dismiss the lawsuit.
Long Island Public Authority.
Long Island Power Authority, on the grounds that they are a government agency and therefore get governmental immunity, an issue you had raised several months ago when this first surfaced. National Grid also moved along the same lines, as well as put in an answer and raised affirmative defenses, things that they intend on proving in court, that the homeowners are responsible, that this was purely an act of God and there's nothing that they could have done.
You know what I don't understand? We found out that of the $60 billion in aid that was appropriated, about $5 billion has actually been spent. So $55 billion is out there. So there does seem to be ample sums out there to make a lot of folks, maybe like yourself, whole.
Well, I can speak for the people from my community that a lot of that money that's been put aside to help the victims of Sandy from any way that their homes were damaged or destroyed has not trickled down very well to our neighborhood whatsoever. There's hundreds of families that are in need to this moment, elderly folks, working class families, lower income families, and it's essentially like the money's been put in escrow so somebody else can figure out what to do with it. I mean, Breezy Point was used as a poster child for this whole entire disaster. That fire drew people like moths to a flame, and all of these various people who did the fundraising, as benevolent as it is on the face of it, they used us as their poster child, and it has not really translated into on-the-ground help. We're talking about people whose homes need to be rebuilt. We're not talking about handing out sums of money. We're
Are
talking
they
about
waiting
where's
for
the
this
sheetrock?
litigation to be settled?
No,
one
the
way or the other?
litigation covers a very small
I got you.
population. The Build It Back program, the federal and state funding, one person, according to their own statistics this week, one person has been helped. Not one person at
Incredible.
Breezy Point or Rockaway Beach that's been in an abandoned
Well,
area.
no matter who you're blaming, I mean, the fact of the matter is you're hurting. And someone's got to help here.
It's
ridiculous.
been a year, and we're homeless still. I have an infant and a 3-year-old, and my wife and I, and
Where are you living now?
we're still up in Yonkers, New York, which is 40 miles away.
With family or?
Through family, we were able to get a rental property, but the reality is our entire lives have been turned over on their heads, and we're dipping
I
into
have
retirement
120
funds.
clients who are still homeless, not back in their houses, haven't even begun to rebuild.
Amazing, amazing. A far fly from the backslapping we saw a year ago.
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you very much. Well, remember when the president of Jersey got